A thrilling episode of Dark Winds this week. We got the showdown we've been waiting for this whole season. It is Leaphorn versus the Killer. Things are heating up. Are we finally going to get some answers? We will find out next week, but we got a really exciting episode. A lot of action in this episode. Not a lot of B storylines, a few of them, but most of it is really just about Leaphorn and this guy wandering around the desert. So, really exciting. I really enjoyed the episode. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section. With that, we're just going to break into the breakdown. So, we start off this episode with the scene that we got that started off the season. So, it was, an exciting shootout scene. I really loved this scene when it first showed up. You could feel the tension. It was palpable. And before, we had a black and white type of style to it, and now it's all in color. So that's pretty cool. You know, honestly, like, I'm the type of guy who I don't necessarily enjoy rewatching the same scene we already saw. It just feels redundant. You know, it's kind of a nitpick because, I understand the storytelling technique, what they're going for. But the only real things that they add, other than, seeing past when the scene cut originally, we get to see the killer bust out of his little RV cubbyhole thing. And he had the gun stowed away in the ground somewhere. So he had a plan, an escape plan. He knew this was coming all along, so he planned for it. And we get to see his plan in action there. And then he ends up stealing their police car and then crashing it right away. Whether he, was just completely out of it, or whether or not like a bullet maybe hit the car in some way. But he managed to smash the radio, so they can't really call for help, even though they've already called for backup at this point. But backup is a few hours away. It is just them versus this guy. They have to go after him. So that's where we end this first scene here. And the tension is palpable, like I said. And the music in this episode is so good. It's like really thrilling. It sets the scene perfectly. It incorporates the culture of the area, but also is just exciting music in its own right. So it's interesting to listen to, in addition to setting the scene perfectly. So I think it's really great. And here we got a shootout. We're chasing him up a hill. We're kind of going to speed through these parts because as fun as these scenes are to watch, there's not a lot always to break down. But, basically, Leaphorn and Bernadette, they take turns. Essentially, the guy is kind of going between shooting each of them. They know how many bullets he has. He said he's got 8 bullets or something like that. And he takes shots at Leaphorn, and then he takes shots at Bernadette. And they basically take turns, trying to draw his attention to each other. Bernadette is something clever where she leaves her flashlight on the rock so that he thinks that she's still there. He shoots the flashlight. The plan worked. So they basically take steps to try to approach as carefully as they can. It's definitely a dangerous situation. So it's definitely exciting to see. And then we get a scene, kind of a fist fight scene in some horses. Leaphorn chases the guy. The guy ran out of bullets. Leaphorn runs into this enclosure, and then he gets jumped by the killer, and there's a fist fight going on. And I love the smokiness of the air and the atmosphere of this scene. The little nitpick is it's kind of hard to tell what's going on when the close-ups are in your face and it's shaking around. It's a little bit hard to see, and maybe that's intentional because they obviously have stunt actors in there. So, that just a small nitpick for that fight scene there. But I love we got him on the cliff's edge. We finally caught up to him. He's dead to rights. The guy decides to jump off the edge, and Leaphorn feels he has no choice but to go after him because of the stakes of the situation. He knows that this is the guy who was at least involved in his son's murder. He says in this scene that it is him. He has a certainty about him that it is that guy. So he has to go after him, and Bernadette's too smart for that. She says, don't do it. We know where he's going. And that was one part where I'm like, where do they think he's going? I'm not sure about that. Let me know what you guys think. But yeah, then we get a cut to a few hours later, and now the sun's up, and, it's TV, so I got to nitpick a little bit. But there's always arbitrary time jumps in TV. They cut her on the commercial break. We come back from commercial break. Now the sun's up. Even though like dawn is like a gradual process. So like 2 hours. I don't know that it's enough to go from like pitch black to fully bright out. But again, nitpicking. So we got Leaphorn here. He's injured. He hit his head on the way down. He looks messed up. He like broke his hand, and he's really not in a good way at all. Bernadette is back at the trailer waiting for the cavalry to get there. The sheriff shows up, and here we see Leaphorn painfully wrap his wound and also load the last bullet he has in the gun. So if you know about storytelling techniques, there's something called Tarkov's gun, and basically Tarkov's gun means that if you establish something early on in the script, especially a gun hanging up over a mantle, by the end of that script, the gun will go off. So that's basically the technique here. He's loading one last bullet. That bullet's going to be used in this episode. Otherwise, they wouldn't bother to feature it. Now, they do kind of reverse that a little bit because they shake up your expectations with that, and we will get back to that towards the end of the episode. But absolutely excruciating to see him in such pain. Here we got Bernadette talking to the sheriff, and she has to convince him to let her go. And here we get to see some of her true strength come into play here, because he doesn't seem to believe that she is trustworthy, or he says, I need somebody I can trust, and I guess that only means his own people. And this is a guy who's been like kind of complaining and lazy this whole season, so she needs to be there. She won't let him do it on her own. She doesn't necessarily trust him, but she has to make him trust her, So I really like to see like how she convinces him, and she uses her wits and her inner strength, and I love to see that. So here we got Leaphorn following him in the desert. He found his footprints, so they're about to get caught up. And here we got Emma with Sally's baby getting a checkup, getting her hearing checked. And right outside in the waiting room, we got the journalist again talking to Sally. And basically, at the beginning of the scene, the journalist cut her lip on a nut or something, and Sally says, you can't cut it like that, or you can't crack it like that. Crack it like that. That's what she said. Can't crack it like that. She tries to get through to her. The journalist tries to ask Sally about her child. She's not really comfortable answering those questions. At first, you think she's just being caged because she doesn't trust her. But really later in the episode, we see what's really going on with Sally, and we'll get back to that when we get to it. But basically, she kind of makes a connection with this journalist lady who she starts to pull out her card and say, I'm writing a story, and then she kind of realizes, no, I just need to be like a good human in this moment. And at the end of the scene, she says, can't crack 'em like that. So that was what started the scene, and now she's ending it with that. And that it changed the meaning through this scene. At the end, it means she needs to change up her tactic. She's been brute forcing her way into this clinic to try to get people on record, and it's not working. Nobody wants to approach her about that. So she needs to find a new way, whether that means less directly asking or just trying to find information in a new way, or maybe she needs to go after the doctors instead or something. She's going to have a new approach when we see her in the next episode. So I'm curious to see where that is going. And then we get the crazy killer guy. He's looking through binoculars, and then we see a shadow pass in front of it, and it's Leaphorn, and Leaphorn takes him out. And now he's got him on a rope, and he's tied him up, and Leaphorn's being very aggressive because, of course, he's more injured than the killer is, so therefore he needs to be more aggressive to account for that. And that's why he's got, the rope tied around his neck, a very vulnerable position. But it also, he mentions at some point that he is the shepherder or something like that. So he is treating him like an animal, and we have an allusion to that later on in a scene with BJ Vines where he's talking about predator and prey. So in this part, the killer guy, all throughout this season, he's been the predator, and now he is the prey. And this whole part of the episode, towards the end of it, the killer's like, we're not that different. So meaning they'd switch positions, but Leaphorn needs to kind of prove himself that he's not like him. So that's the subtext going on here with this scene. So I love the drama with the two of them. And that guy's such a psycho, man. And here we got the one scene with Chi in the episode. And Mrs. Vines is back. And she is finishing her business with Chi, paying him for his troubles. She regrets getting involved with the investigation. And she does seem to have some legitimate guilt here, because after she leaves this scene, she cries to herself in the car. So she's paying him for her own conscience in a way. So it's really it's interesting. I thought maybe she was more the bad guy, kind of pulling the strings behind the scenes. Seems like maybe she got in over her head and there's something else going on. I'm really curious about it. There's this close up here where you can kind of see the guilt with the two men who were murdered. Chi brings them up. What about them? And she kind of looks around, and you can tell that she's saddened by that, even though she sent them after them to begin with. So that's it's very confusing. I don't know what to make of it. What do you guys think? So, and then BJ Vines, turns out he was following his wife all along. He pulls out a gun. He threatens Chi. He thinks that Chi is her lover, and he kind of flips the script on him and offers him the job to be a private investigator to find the man that she is cheating on him with. So I don't know that we've seen evidence for that in this series so far, but maybe it has more to do with the people of darkness. Maybe she got deeper involved with them in more ways than one. I don't know. I'm curious where this is going. But we don't get confirmation that she accepts his proposition in this scene. We're kind of left to wonder what's going on. But yeah, Chi's not really all that enthusiastic about it. But he's a private investigator. He didn't seem totally opposed to it either. And despite the fact that he just had a gun pointed at him, Chi took him out no problem. And it was great to see. So I would love to see Chi in the story more. But this is a Leaphorn episode, and that's for the best. So Leaphorn here makes the killer take off his shoe. And this is, I'm assuming, to level the playing field a bit, to make it harder for him to run away, because Leaphorn knows, he might get overpowered at some point. He doesn't want to kill the guy because, he's got his code as a cop. But even more than that, I think he wants to know more about what happened to his son. He thinks this is the guy who did it, but maybe there were others involved, and he wants proper justice. He doesn't just want his own vigilante justice. That would be a dead end as far as his investigation goes. So I would say that there is a selfish component to his desire to do the right thing here. Not that makes it less legitimate. It's just worth stating and pointing out. So here he's being a bit more cruel here, but it does make sense logically speaking. But is it the logic, or does he want to see this guy suffer? Maybe both, and maybe that's not the worst thing. So here we got Bernadette and the sheriff, and they're arguing, do we go left or right? Basically, Bernadette takes the point, and she says we're going this way because the other way might be flooded, and we don't have time to go around. So she takes charge at this point. The sheriff isn't happy about it, but he comes along. So here we got the killer basically getting all psychological in Leaphorn's head, and he's saying, all the things that could happen as a result of his injury. And he seems to have some medical knowledge. So I don't know if that means, he wore the skin of the doctor in the hospital episode last week. And I'm assuming it's probably not his job to be a doctor. I'm assuming maybe he has some army experience or military experience and learned that stuff there. But I don't know. I don't know that we have confirmation for that either way. Or maybe he just read a bunch of books. Who knows? But here we got a weird cut, and it's just a nitpick here. We got a arbitrary, cliffhanger thing, cutting to commercial. On streaming, it looks even worse than it probably would on TV. But we hard cut from Leaphorn pointing the gun. They want you to wonder if he's going to shoot him or not. And then we cut to them, a few minutes later and just walking normally. And then Leaphorn does it again, pulls the gun out again. It's just a really cheap cliffhanger we didn't need just for the commercial break, especially since, I don't know how many people are watching on streaming, but at this point, it's got to be a significant portion of the audience. So I got to wonder the wisdom of that. But here we got a scene where he's wrapping the killer around this tree. And, what is his intention here? He basically pulls out this bag, which that has money in it, by the way. And he's been offered the money. The killer sussed out that it's a personal thing. But even if it wasn't, Leaphorn wouldn't take the money. We know he's not doing that. But he reaches in the bag. He pulls out a gag. And he wants to get this guy to shut up because he's in his head. The killer here even says, "I'm in your head now. I'm the voice in your head now." So he knows that it's working. So basically, he takes this moment to try to take out Leaphorn. He kicks him, and there's a brief struggle there. You think Leaphorn is going to choke him to death, and it starts snowing. It's been cold this whole back half of the season so far. I love the way that played out, man. So here we got the Vines spouses, and BJ Vines is like threatening his wife, kind of hinting that he knows that she's being unfaithful, and he goes on the speech about the hunt and the hunted, and it always ends in the look of I forget the word he says, but where you accept that you're taken over, basically, and that's resignation. That's what he says. And she kind of gives him that look in this moment, and he's like, "I got you a gift," and it's a necklace that says fidelity, or in some other language, and then he ties it too tight on her, and she's somebody who is struggling to breathe already. So it's a threat for sure. She's being strangled by faithfulness. Maybe she actually is faithful, and it's just his twisted thinking. Who knows? We'll find out soon, I guess. But we also learn in this scene where they met, and it turns out BJ Vines was married to her sister, and that's where he got the money from her sister, marrying her sister. Her sister dies, and then she marries him. Twisted. that's messed up. Okay, I can't understand why you'd want to do that. But yeah, then we get one final scene. We bring in the killer into the prison, and then I love this scene so much. It is silent. Nobody says anything. There's all these knowing looks, and there's conflict in the air. It should be like a celebration moment. Nobody's happy. We all know that this is not gonna be the end. So there's a ticking clock going on, and of course we're thinking about the bombs that he makes, and he's tapping on the prison cell as well. And we end on this. It almost this is the look of the predator looking at his prey, right? So this is the pure hatred. And despite the fact that he's like so beaten down, he needs to go to the hospital. There was even a woman, the female officer, I don't remember her name if we heard it, but she came up to him and was like, wanted to reach out and help in some way, but he just has this air of strength around him that like told her to go away without even saying anything. And we know that I think the sheriff is going to want to take control of this situation, that he's going to want to interrogate the guy. He's going to want him in his jail eventually. So something is brewing in the air, and I thought that scene was amazing. We need more scenes like this on TV where we're not constantly talking. That's what I loved about Breaking Bad, was they knew when to shut up. You know what I mean? let the scene play out and let us bask in that moment. We only heard their breathing, sound of their footsteps moving around and shuffling. Like, we heard the clock, of course. We didn't need a bunch of music. We didn't need wall to wall everything. We just need people's faces looking at each other. That's the most captivating scene in the whole episode, practically. So that's this week's episode, guys. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. I'm a big fan. Can't wait for next week. Hope to see you guys there. But with that, it's been your boy Shuggy. See you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching, everybody. Peace out.